No, it's not you. It's technically, and so the follow the that time. Like you said, you were going to ask after being mentioned. Yeah, to don't forget.
I when you went for it, I knew you were doing something. That's to talk because it's me. No.
This one is already.
Yeah, your speaker, or else I'll remove one from the class. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, class.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you, sir.
We are fine. Thank you.
That's great.
Very great, sir.
Okay. I think we'll continue in our class. Ppgdsw 701, History and Philosophy of Social Work. Let's start with 2 or 3 people telling us or reminding us what we studied last week. I mean, in the last class, rather. Now we have volunteers.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
From the last we did was one of them is professional social work. That is the function. And you said that who is a professional social worker? Say someone that has been trained for the services of serving people. And then you now told us about the function. The 4 function. The first one is curative function, correctional function,
It was to learn how to
preventive function, developmental function. The first one, the first function is curative function, which is about how to take care of individual groups to make them become whole. Example is like mental clinics, psychiatric aspects, child care giver, and then those who are physically challenged, how to take care of them to become whole. Then the second one is correctional function. you made us understand is in 3 areas. The first one is individual reform. Second is improving social relationship. Then the third one, I think, is rehabilitation or reorientation. Then the preventive function talks about services, is related to services relating to prevention of problems like insecurity, unlawfulness, ignorance, and some other services. Then you now explain the developmental function. Example is socio-economic development like education, prevention of diseases in an environment, creating recreational services, and then developing other what's it called? Developing good system in an urban or rural environment. Then you now said that social work profession includes special body of knowledge that is organized through training and also obtaining of skills and techniques that will enable us as social workers to work competently in any area that we find ourselves in. I think that's all I can
Okay,
give
Thelma,
for.
thank you very much for that exhaustive recap of what we had last time. Can one or two more people also tell us in their own view what they got from all what we have talked about so far? Yeah, who is there?
Okay, so let me come in.
Okay, Mula.
Okay, Mona.
I'm not, let me change my name first. So it's my daughter sometimes uses my phone. Just give me a few minutes.
Just tell us your name.
Okay, my name is Dulu Blessing. So far we looked at the general acceptable definition of social work. So we looked at it as a remedy to psychosocial problem that addresses group or community environmental issues. And in terms of the environmental issues, we also need to put into factors the emotions, the character, the social life, and the environment of that person. Then you then took us to understanding the modern days definition of social work, the key features we need. So you made us understand that in terms of defining it now, we'll look at the human rights perspective, social justice. We'll look at it as a mechanism to problem solving, empowerment, and also a tool to address environmental challenges. Then we looked at 6 things that social work, to promote social work. As social workers, we work to promote social change. We're agents of problem solving. We also look at empowerment and liberation. Then we also apply the principles of human rights in terms of providing support. Then we also looked at the objectives of social work. And one that came out clearly is that it's a tool to fulfill and solve humanitarian needs. So this is a summary of what we did as well. Thank you.
I think the network has thrown Oga out. We should be trying to reconnect back.
He will soon be back. Let's just be patient. Maybe the host will help us call him to tell him that his mic is muted. I'm sure he's talking, but he doesn't know his mic is muted. Maybe he did that mistakenly.
Let's have a mail, please.
Sir, we have not been hearing you since. You muted your mic mistakenly, I'm
Sorry,
sure.
I was muted.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
So you have to go back again. Thank you, sir.
Balance. Where is Clapperton?
I'm here.
Okay, let's hear your voice.
Clapperton is present, sir. Sir?
Just refresh us. What have we done so far? What have we gotten from all we've discussed so far?
I'm meeting you for this first time, sir.
No, this is not the first time. You were in class last time. I saw you very conspicuous.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. You were in
Oh,
class.
I have the materials, yeah.
Yeah. No, then we did that.
It's like all our male students have gone to sleep. What is the problem?
No, sir. We are active, sir.
Okay, let me hear your voice now. Say something.
Okay. In the last class, we attempted to look at a clear-cut definition of social work, like my other colleagues have said, and we also looked at the 6 cardinal points, as in what the profession seeks to promote, which has earlier been mentioned, after which you proceeded to talk about the objective. And we looked at the objective based on the contribution of, I think, three authors. That's Fred Lander, Gordon Brown, and we just picked out some things from there where you talked about the generic objective of social work. And we discussed about 11 points. You highlighted 11 points under that particular category. And we talk about functions of a professional social work, that there are people that, do social work, but they are not professional. But what they do can also be regarded to as a social work. But we emphasize that our main emphasis is on professional social work. And we listed and discussed some of the functions as the curative functions, that some things have degenerated in the society, and or as far as it has to do with our claims, which we perform curative function, then correctional functions, and we look at the preventive functions, that we don't need to, as social worker, we don't need to wait to the point where things degenerate before we step into action, that we can prevent, such occurrences from happening. And also we talked about the developmental functions. I think those are the basic things I picked last week, sir, which my other colleagues have expatiated on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. You've taken us to where we actually ended. I think all of you are the best. having been able to recap what we have done to our preceding classes. Thank you very much for the feedback. I will continue in the class. We're starting from modern development. Actually, the last class we also touched the issue of modern development. Remember, I told you that we'll be starting basically now on the history of professional social work, having gone through what the philosophy is, the philosophy of social work is. They will proceed to the second leg of the course, which is the history of social work. I remember I did mention about three pointers to modern social work development. We talked about the first, which was the individual casework strategy, which was pioneered by the Charity Organization Society, that is COS, in the mid-19th century. Then we also talked about the second leg of the modern social work development, which is the social administration aspect of social work profession that has to do with relief, grants, assistance that is given to those who are vulnerable. This actually started around the 17th century through the gateway of the English poor law. Then we talked about the third aspect, which is the social action aspect of it that had to do with community effort, with group effort, with family effort, and with projects targeted towards alleviation of poverty with groups and communities. So I think that was where we ended the last time. Now, we will now start from what actually, or where is the origin of professional social work. We'll be laying emphasis here on the English poor law, which is the major documented history of social work around the globe. We talk about English poor law, we'll go to the American Settlement House, then we'll come back also to Nigeria and do some summary of what happened in Africa, and then we'll end the course for you to sit for the exam. Professional social work originated in the 19th century from England. And that is rooted in the social and economic crisis created as a result of the Industrial Revolution. All of us know what the Industrial Revolution was then after the Second World War. In particular, the societal struggle to deal with the resultant mass urban-based poverty and its related problems. After the war, we know that after any crisis, what you will face is lack, wants, needs of people. And poverty will pervade such environment or such community, state, or nation, which was what the recorded history of England was as a result of the war and then the Industrial Revolution, which had become from migrants, an agrarian society to developmental society or industrial society. And because poverty was the main cause of the early social work profession, it was intrinsically linked with the idea of charity work. Wherever vulnerable people, wherever there is poverty in the land, like what we have in Nigeria, you will discover, even in Nigeria, you see the fact that there's poverty in the land, and you see the effort of governments at trying to alleviate such poverty, and see also the efforts of individuals at helping to alleviate poverty. These were the things being faced in England of the 19th century that necessitated the origin of the helping profession within their system. The second one was the fact that there are consequences of this crisis which led to racism, homophobia, sexism, displaced, internally displaced persons. Then you have refugees, people moving from other climes into England and things like that. Other people seeking refuge. You have migrant and discrimination-based crisis. This also led to what led to the professional social work activity within the 19th century England that necessitated the fact that the government of the day actually were looking at how to ensure that the issue of racism comes to an end, to the background of the society, the issue of uh, homophobia also comes to the background of the civilization that is unfolding, and interdisplaced persons, people who, because of crisis, because of religious crisis, because of communal clashes, because of other natures of crisis, that have to migrate or leave forcefully their own abode to other areas. All these things instead the fact that people are in their need of social support. And in the 19th century, we discover that so many things happened that laid the foundation for the profession of social work. But before the 19th century, starting from the 16th century, you begin to see the way people were treated, the way the nation state was administered, ranging from the feudal lords, ranging from the crown, then to the feudal lords, and then to the poor people who had to the hired lands for them to work and returns brought back to the feudal of the day. And then you discover that even at that, people work and little was actually gained commensurate to the effort being put in to whatsoever it is. So there is a wide range of organized poverty, which is a relief system to now be brought into place so that what people were experiencing will so that what people are experiencing were handled and there was seemingly progress within the nation state of England. So the origin of the English policy system can be traced as far back as late medieval status, dealing with beggars and vagrancy, but it was only during the Tudor period. The Tudor period was between the 14th or 1485 to 1603, the English and Wales uh, regime, which includes also the Elizabeth I era of 1558 to 1603 of that period, which connotes that the king is supreme in all the entirety of what was done in the land. This was prior to the advent of the church society that came in to also help in administering social services to the poor in the land, the poorest of the poor in the land. So during that period, you discover that there was the rule and the law by the queen to ensure that those who are under his power or who are under communal power were able to be granted that which makes life easy for each and every. But the issue of the feudal lord compounded the efforts of the then government, which is the crown. And then because of the compoundment of that, so many people were being cheated. Many of the people in the land who were been working seriously and effectively to produce in the land were being given little. And then you see poverty everywhere. In the monastery also, you see people in the church also were believed to be people who are poor, who needed services of those who are higher than them or who are richer than them, for them to be able to make ends meet. And because of that, you will discover that even though labors are cheap, but even though what the laborers are producing, they could hardly be able to afford what they also provide. So because of that, poverty, sickness, death, and the likes were what was experienced at that time. And what gave rise to the poor law system became codified. Monasteries, the primary that was the primary source of the poor relief, because they are now the ones who were able to gather money and were able to give palliative, so to say, palliative to the people, coupled with what the nation state was providing for those who are poor. And again, the nation state had to also tax those who are seemingly rich, the middle class and the upper class were taxed, and the tax was basically for one thing, to meet the needs of the poor. So we saw two regimes there, the regime of the crown, the regime of the church, that were working towards palliative for those who are poor. Those who are poor, in that sense, of that century, were those who are beggars, those who were old, those who are blind, those who have one form of handicap or deformity or the other, who cannot fend for themselves, who cannot engage in productive activities for themselves, by themselves, and for others. So they were termed as vagrants, they are termed as beggars and the poor, who the community or the society have to take care of. It is not far-fetched from what is also obtainable now. But there are some other people within that climb who are able-bodied but were not working. Those people also at the beginning, they were being supported. But at the end of the day, it was termed as a crime for an able-bodied person not to work. So the next thing was to ensure that the able-bodied people who are not working are sent to correctional facilities. And sometimes they are even being beaten to ensure that they come to their right senses. You have all the things that God has given you, yet you are not working to support those who do not have, and who cannot work. Rather, they were coming to also get support. You see it even these days, when government talk about support, you see those who will be there on the list. They are those who have money. You say low-cost housing for the poor, for low-income earners. Those who will first have it are those who are at the top. And all those people like that, something should be done to them. They should check their mental health, and their genuineness and love for the land should also be questioned. So the third thing that happened was the pandemic that happened in Europe, that brought more people into poverty after the pandemic of those days. And the pandemic was called the Black Death. It doesn't have anything to do with the black people, but just that the transformation of the pandemic was that at the advanced stage, the tendon of the body becomes black, and it was named after that, the Black Death. The pandemic was 1346 to 1353 AD, where more than 50 million people also perished, and many people rendered homeless. Many people, children, are left by their demise parents and things like that. And so the state have to come to the rescue of these people. So all these things led to the beginning of the English poor law system. After that, led to the first complete code of poor relief. Now, we talked about the 3 stages. Now, this is the second stage of the social administration of social services in the England that we are looking at. So we see that it is now at the level of administration. So the poor relief system before now was done as an initiative. Now it has gotten to the realm of policy, social policy, that will give rise to social administration, and then will give rise to humanitarian development and administration of groups, community, and the like, that will ensure that each and every person are touched by the will of the government of the land. So the first complete code of poor relief was made in the Acts for the Relief of the Poor in 1597, and some provision for the deserving poor was eventually made in the Elizabethan Poor Law of 1601. It created a system administered at parish level, paid for by levying local rates on rate payers. What we are saying is that from 1601, the Elizabethan Poor Law stipulates that the administration of the poor, of relief to the poor, will no longer be the sole responsibility of the crown, but the responsibility of both the crown and the church, because the church is a community, and the community must also be able to take care and fend for its member. So it was enacted into the law, and the distribution of relief to the poor were majorly the responsibility of the church. And the church were, during that period, now started the division of parish formation, so that by parish formation, we mean that it is the same thing like the local government that is closer to the people within that area. So the parish is the lowest level of administration of both spiritual and intervention to the masses, or to the poor. So, but how does this come to be? Even though the crown and the church were responsible for this, where does the money come from? The money comes from tax payment. That was the first mention of taxation in the English law. The first arm of taxation that was mentioned was the English poor law. Primarily, taxation was meant to support the poor. It was a social responsibilities of individuals who are at working age or who are working, and those who are able to fend for themselves. So because of that, some small taxation was levied on those who are working. Some higher taxation were levied on those who are middle class. Higher taxation was levied on those who are feudal lords. All these brought together now were used to provide provisions for the poor in the land, so that no one is lacking anything, so that nobody will do it. The society do not produce more of dependence, but also break those who are at the lower cadre to also move up to the middle cadre of society. The same thing taxation does today. It is to break those barriers and to ensure that everyone inclusively provides for each other. Then relief for those who are too old to work, the so-called impotent poor. Who are impotent poor? Those who are retirees, those who are old, those who have some form of deformity or the other, those, and they cannot walk. Some people may have deformity and they could be able to walk, but some have deformity and they just are unable to. Those are the ones that are called impotent poor of those days. So this was in the form of payment of food items to them, and those food items that are provided to them, they have a name that is coined out for it, which means the parish loaf, because food were given to them in the morning, afternoon, and in the evening, lunch, breakfast, and supper. So they call it the poor, the parish loaf. And they also have what is called the clothing of those who are being taken care of in that regard. They call it outdoor relief. So we have two forms of relief that were being given to those who are impotent, poor, which are the parish loaf and the outdoor relief. The outdoor relief will mean clothing, netting, that bed net, and things like different kind of things for the weather of the period. So both food and outdoor relief, what they need outside. So some aged persons might also be given accommodation in the parish houses. So that is the third level of help that were given to the poor, and especially the impotent poor, before the parish houses. These houses were also free of cost to the impotent poor who cannot work, who cannot support themselves, but have to be supported by society. So the police were given houses so that they can have a place to modern day of what we call shelter of different kinds within our states and nation at large. And it is sufficient to also mention that even though the government planned for this, the church also planned for this, but there are also some private charitable institutions that also try to pushing this effect of what the government was doing at that period. So we have charitable who also came into partnership with the government and the church to provide this form of services to the people during the English poor law system. Meanwhile, everybody beggars who had refused work were often placed in house of correction or even subjected to beating to mend their ways or mend their attitude. So you can see how serious it is. These days, you see people on the road who have who are not challenged in any part of their body begging, or people who carry stick on the road. When you see vehicles who have loaded goods to go and supply somewhere, you'll be beating them and collecting money from them. People like that ought to be taken into correctional centers or facilities so that they can be beaten or they can be corrected, and to ensure that they use the strength and power that God has given them to also be productive and meet the needs of their family, themselves, their families, and those who cannot fend for themselves. So those are some of the things that led to the English poor law system. Suffice to say that there are other areas that we will need to consider when we talk about the English poor law system. But let's talk a little more on the harm houses, which were built to house vulnerable people with no other, who has no other support, people with long-term illness, or those who are older without families, older people without families to take care of them. We discovered that the first recorded farmhouse, which we know as shelter now, farmhouse was built in 1713 near Philadelphia by William Penn and was only opened by the Quakers. The second was built nearly 1728, which was built by public fund. Then in 1736, the New York opened the poorhouse of the city of New York. And in 1737, New Orleans opened the St. John's Hospital to serve the poor of the city. That was the first medical social work facility that was built. We discover that not just for the health of the people, but also for the mental health of the people. The one that was built in 1736 at New York was named Bellevue Hotel. Bellevue Hospital. Sorry. Bellevue Hospital. And the one that was built 1737 was the Orleans St. John's Hospital to serve the poor of the city. So the Poor Law Amendment Act completely overhauled the existing system in Britain and established a Poor Law Commission. So we are seeing what had been built from the beginning, and we are seeing the progress so far. Now, from 1737 was another stage of the poor law system. I think the act, what was enacted, then now we have the commission. That was now a progress that was made to ensure that the operation of the system becomes more solidified and expanding and being deepened. This included the forming together of small parishes into poor law unions. Now we talked about parishes before now. Now we have the parishes turning into unions and the building of workhouses in each union for the giving of poor relief. So it is no longer a matter of people living within a community. It is now people of like minds coming together, and you have a commission toward that ensure the administration of those who came together to ensure that service to the poor are met, and to also ensure that those who are expected to be given these palliatives were actually those people who were being given. This will mean that people who receive this will identify each other, and they are also registered and recorded. And what was given to them are registered and also recorded, so that it can also be evidence-based distribution of palliative to the vulnerable or the poor of the poor or the impotent poor who have to be assisted. And those who are also living in the assisted house or the workhouses are also brought together in the form of union to ensure that what was given to them or the houses they are living in are also adequate for them, and that it is well organized without any security challenge being met to them. Although the aim of the legislation was to reduce cost of ratepayers, one area not reformed was the method of financing of the poor law system, which continued to be paid for by levying a poor rate on the property owning middle class. Now, remember we had said that the sole responsibility of catering for the needs of the vulnerable was forced by the Queen during the Elizabethan regime. Then we now develop into even the church, the Roman Catholic Church, also taking the challenge of meeting the needs of their members, gravitating towards also people in the community, helping them together with the Queen. Then we have talked about the fact that later on, houses were built, armed houses were built, and people were catered for. Not just being catered for by sheltering them, but also providing food for them, for food for the belly
My
and
own
clothes
is
for the body.
to vomit now, so allow it to touch you.
So they provide all those things. Then later on, there was this issue of gravitating towards the commission. The commission also
This is
continued like that. But now you see there's now an expansion. More funds were needed for this relief package. What was done, aside from the fact that the middle class were taxed,
Ọ̀la náà inú òrùn la máa jáde.
now another
Sorry.
form of taxation was the property tax. The feudal lords who have property, you have farms, you have houses, you have vehicles, and the like, they were all taxed. So that was in the bid to enlarge the tax envelope so that it can be also higher for them to be able to do more. So you see, what we are seeing now as taxation did not just start now, it started long ago. And the problem where the situation where people are shouting now that, oh, we are hungry, we are this, we are that, is because of the administration of the taxes that being collected. But you don't see much of what the tax people pay are doing in form of infrastructure, in form of palliative, sort of support and the like. People tend to also cry out. So although the Poor Law Amendment Act did not ban all form of adult relief, it stated that no able-bodied person was to receive money or other help from the Poor Law Authority except in a workhouse. So conditions in workhouses were to be made harsh to discourage people from claiming the support. So workhouses were to be built in every parish, and if parishes were too small, parish could group together to form poor law unions. So the poor law commissioners were to be responsible for overseeing the implementation of the act. So the 19th century saw a great leap forward in technological and scientific achievement. There was also a great migration to urban areas throughout the Western world, which led to many social problems. This galvanized the socially active, prosperous middle and upper classes to search for ways to ameliorate the physical and spiritual condition of the poor underclasses. This was coupled with a religious revival and many Protestant mission efforts attempted to resolve the problems inherent in large cities like poverty, prostitution, diseases, and other afflictions. These are the philosophies of scientific charity emerged. What we are saying is that during the poor law system, you have seen what has been achieved, the relief that has been given to the poor. Then what do you see? Even within our dispensation now, you will discover that bulk of infrastructures were or are made for the urban cities or semi-urban city at the best. And because the vulnerables are more in the localities than the urban centers, and those who are the urban centers are receiving more, they are getting more, they have facilities and the likes. What happened? People from the localities or local environment gravitate or move towards the urban or semi-urban environment. And when you see that people are now moving into the urban environment, you will discover that there would be stress on facilities. There will be stress on living conditions. There will be stress on the health of the people. There will be stress on the facilities that we provided. And people will tend to always want more and more. And because of this, you will discover migration of people from the localities or local environment to the urban environment producing stress and stretching of the facilities will mean that what was either available before will no longer be available or will not be adequately provided or will not be adequately enough for now those who are coming and those who were there before. And these were things that you discover in urban or semi-urban areas, that you have prostitution, you have more poverty, you have more diseases, you have more affliction, you have so many ills and vices within the urban environment, which are explained by the movement of the people from the local environment to the cities. This was what was led to the philosophy of scientific charity. Scientific charity, which emerged, and we stated that charity should be secular, rational, and empirical, as opposed to sectarian, sentimental, and dogmatic. It's now returning back to what used to be, but the larger percentage of survivors are expected to be reached by the government. So the government now is supposed to care for the larger percentage of those who are poor, provide for those for the facilities that are needed, provide for the food need of the people. And so people began to look up towards the government of the day, again, as in the time of the Queen, where we started from. So that's what they call scientific. Now, it's because they are no longer in the village, they have passed through so many things. But now, what are the causes of poverty? People want to know, what are the real causes of poverty? What are the real causes of prostitution? What are the real causes of diseases? What are the real causes of affliction? What are the so people are now asking questions. Before, questions were not asked. They were just meeting the needs of the people. Now, with scientific charity, it is not just everybody that cry foul that you be listening to. You cannot fend for yourself. Sorry for you. Just start working. Even those who are impotent poor, they want to know, why do we call them impotent poor? Is it after retirement or when they are old that nothing they can contribute again to the society? So people can go to the church and pray and ask because of the love of God or the love of Christ and things like that. People will give and do all those things. But in this dispensation, there is now a movement to what is called the scientific charity. If we have to provide, if we have to give, there is more. We must see that this person also merits the charity of people, merits the money or the fund, the pooled fund, that's the taxation, that have been contributed by all these other persons to be given to one person. So they must be able to account, and they must be able to account for what had been given to them. Hello, are we together?
Yes, sir.
Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we're
sir.
together, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So during this period now, we now have what we call the rescue societies. And we're trying to find more appropriate means of self-support for especially women who are involved in prostitution. You know, and how to build state-built mental asylum for those who are mentally healed or who are mentally sick. So you see, from that point, you now see the fact that it is not just giving for them to eat, giving for them as an outdoor something, but it is now self-support. I believe you are following to this point. And this is gravitating towards professional social work of those days. Because one of the aim of social work is to ensure that the vulnerable come to the point of self-support, where they become people who can fend for themselves and who can be good to themselves and also be good to others, also be able to give to others, and to also be their best in any community they live in. So it is not always to depend on people. They should get to a point where other people also should depend on them. And in that dependence, there must always be self-support at the background of it. So now, the Rescue Society was initiated, and the aim was to ensure that people are self-support. Remember, we have said that social work is not charity. We have said that social work is not philanthropy, even though charity and philanthropy are in social work. They are an element in social work. Social workers are not expected to also be charitable, even though charity should be in their blood. They are not supposed to be philanthropists, even though philanthropy must be in their blood, so that they'll be able to train those who are poor, those who are vulnerable, those who are their service users to be self-dependent, to be self-supporting, to ensure that they have the grit, the love of themselves, and grit and love for others. So from here, the Rescue Society in 1840 were able to come up with a state-built mental asylum for those who have mental challenges. That is the beginning of the first psychiatry social work, which was built in 1840. Don't forget, it is twine. The self-support was meant for those who are prostitutes. They're coming from scientific now. They now discover the reasons why people go into prostitution or some other vices. So there have been counseling and psychosocial support done, and now there is now reformation. Reformation was to ensure they have what they are doing so that they will not be the food. They have to and they must do honest, reasonable work to support themselves and their family and be able to. So those are the support. For them. Work is, as much as you want to do philanthropy within they come and wait again to collect the next one. Why? They don't need it. That is not scientific. Scientific social work will mean that you will go there and do research. You will do interviews. You will do through questionnaire, whatever, or whatever, IDI or whatever means, to get what the needs of people are and to get those who are actually needing, who will need those things, and then provide that thing. And in providing them, there is a clause of accountability. Okay, so let's go ahead. So most historians identify the Charity Organization Society, that the CSO, the COS, which was founded by Helen Bosquet and Octavia Hills in London in the 1869. They are the pioneer of the Charity Organization Society. As the pioneering organization of the social theory that leads to the emergence of social work as a professional occupation. So the credit is given to both Helen Bosquet and Octavia Hills. In 1869, they gave credit to the social theory, which led to the emergence of social work as a profession. So don't forget that. So the Charity Organization Society had its main focus on individual casework. We've mentioned that earlier. It supported the concept of self-help and limited government intervention. Note those three things that were brought about, that were chiefly brought about by the duo in 1869 through the reasoning of social theory, or the formation of social work, for the beginning emergence of social work as an occupation, and then the emphasis on casework with individual groups and community. And it is aimed at the concept of self-help, the concept of limited government intervention to dealing with the effect of poverty, and target relief where it was most needed. So it is not just charity as usual. We have left that in the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, the 17th, the 18th century. The 17th century, in the late 18th century, where we have the scientific charity has brought about, it is a scientific charity that brought about the establishment or emergence of social work as an occupation. And as occupation, the chief proponents were Helen and Hills, who now are of the opinion that it must social work, if it must be social work activity for the vulnerable, it must be such that will lead people to help themselves. That is why we say that social workers are not the king. It is the vulnerable or our service users that are the king. We only use the knowledge, theories that we have learned and that we know to assist them to presenting arrays of opportunities or solutions before them. They are the ones who knows where the shoes is pinching them, and they are the one that will know the best solution for themselves. So social work is helping others to help themselves. With little or less government intervention when we deal with the issue of the effect of poverty. And that reliefs palliatives helps must be targeted to those who utmostly need them. Not that just, hey, this one is poor, just bring them in and just give to everybody. Like we do now. All this trader money, all this people go and meet in the village. You just go there and give and give and give and give to those who need and to those who don't. In fact, those who don't need, those things are the ones that get them more. Those who actually need them are not getting. Why are they not getting it? Why are those who needed them the most? Why are they not getting it? Because it is not scientific. So these are the things that Helen and Hills have come to see to ensure that by scientific provision of resources to the needy, it goes straight to targeted persons who are in need of them. Are we together? Hello, are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we are together.
We are together, sir.
Hello? Am I alone in the house?
We are together, sir.
No, we are here.
I'm not hearing your voices.
We are not at the party. We are here.
We are
with
very much here, sir.
Hello?
Hello, sir, we are with you, sir. We are
We can
together.
hear you. We can hear you.
Are you sure you didn't mute your mic?
Okay. Okay, let's, as a follow-up on the 1869, was another person called Hills. Now we are mentioning two Hills now. In 1870, Alsager Hills was one of the prominent members at the foundation of the COS. Alsager Hill was the honorary secretary of the council until 1817 and as an active member of the council till 1880. He also worked as an almoner to the societies for the relief of distress in the east of London.
You guys will tell me that before enter play called Nigeria. Is it how is the container? How is the container? Is it very big?
Can we mute? Who's that now? Let's mute our mics. Okay. So almoners are distributors of social services in the hospitals in those days. Like I said, we have now in the 1840s gave rise to the psychiatry social work. Now we have almoners in the hospital. They are medical social workers within the hospital system. So Alsager Hill was an almoner as well as the honorary secretary of COS till 1880, which gave rise to what is known now as medical social worker. He campaigned about the many flaws in the poor law system and urged for a more scientific classification of what is known as paupers. He wants to know, let's have a more classification of who are the poor. The poor, the vagrant, the pauper, and the likes of that. Who are they? We should give a more detailed and clearer definition of who paupers are. If not, some people disguise in the name of being paupers, and they are not actually paupers. When somebody say he's a poor man, and he has a house, he has a fridge, he has freezer, he has a car, he has many other things that you don't even have in a 3-bedroom house, or as much as they have in a 3-bedroom house. And the person says, I am a pauper. Is that person a pauper? So he wants to know. That's part of faulting the English poor law system. And being scientific, by scientific, you need to know details of what you are doing. You want to know details of who you are dispensing your resources to, or resources available to the community. Who are you dispensing them to? And because of that, in 1867, he wrote a pamphlet. And the title of the pamphlet was Our Unemployed, which was one of the earliest attempts to highlight the problem of systemic unemployment. And he suggested in that pamphlet a national system of labor registration. That was in 1871. By this, he pioneered a system of labor exchange in England, establishing the Employment Inquiry Office and Labor Registry. Now we have the Ministry of Labor and Productivity. That was it then. Started in England in 1871. The Ministry of Labor and Productivity, as we have it now, it was an agency at that period. And then he advised applicants for assistance and founded and edited labor news to improve communication between masters and men seeking work. So that's where you see advert being placed. Is there any work that you have for somebody? Place it in an advert. So he started that communication he started bridging the communication gap between those who have jobs and those who do not have jobs. So that some people have jobs, they don't know who to give the jobs to. Some people are in need of jobs, they don't know who has the job. So it is bridging the gap. So which was started by Alsager Hale in 1871. So that we have more to the poor law system, which I will advise you to read, having laid the foundation for what the poor law system was at the beginning of the professional social work, which was started by Helen and Hughes. So just read more on the poor law system. You have it in your history. When we meet next time, we'll be talking about the American Settlement Movement, USM. So if you have anything to ask or contribute, you may unmute and speak. Hello?
Hi, sir.
Hello,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah. Is there any question, contribution, and confession? Do we have any question, contribution, or confession?
Confession of sin.
Anyhow, you may want to confess your sin, how you have cheated before. Since nobody has anything to say, hello, house.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. I want to ask a question.
Okay.
It's my. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to ask. Are we going to cram all these
You don't need to
dates?
be sorry. You just ask your question.
I'm asking if you are going to cram all these dates. 90.
It is history now, is it not?
Jesus.
History has to do with this.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You don't need to cram it. Just know the stages. Then the days will fall in.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
You know, in history, you cannot do without dates. Because the dates, this is authenticity. Give history authenticity. And many of us don't like this. Maybe so.
So, sir.
So, sir.
But in any course that is titled history, you cannot run away from dates. So you get to know some few dates. Yes, Abioye Deborah, your hand is up.
Sir, please, my question is this course now, when we want to read it for exam, we will finish the material, we will just read till where we stop in class.
Just be reading, no. Just be reading. We may finish or we will not finish. When is your exam?
It's less than 3 weeks time. Oh.
No problem. Just read it now. Not be easy. Nothing to cram there.
What of AOC, sir?
I wanted to ask so.
AOC.
Sir.
I don't give AOC to students, but I'll give one. I'll give an assignment.
Okay,
But
sir.
when we get to the point where I'll give the assignment, I'll give assignment. Not now.
Thank you, sir.
But I don't give AOC. And you know that it's objective. Your exams are objectives. And by objective, it means that it will cover from page 1 to page last.
Even the one not treated in class, sir. Hey,
So
this
don't
one.
go back to the last. Oh,
You need to just
hey.
read. You need to read.
Hey.
History. Even this one that you have said in class, if I ask questions now, you see that you will know some, you don't know some. But be sure that all the questions that will come are in the material that was given you from point A to point Z.
Yes, sir. We know you.
Who is that knows me?
I've done your exams in second semester. That's what I'm talking.
Oh, really? You are back-to-back students.
Yes, sir. Hey. Sir, God will help us. We
My
need to
exam
read your
very
notes.
tough. Now, sure you know it now.
Oga, we have to read the notes. That's the thing. Every of your notes, you have to sweep it in the brain. If not, I'm sorry for those that will not finish the notes.
I beg you, let everybody get the reading, the course material.
We forwarded to them, sir, except you want to give us more or you do revision for us.
No.
There shouldn't be
Okay,
more.
the one I gave you, even though I'm trying to update. Then.
So I don't update anything. Let us deal with other pages that we have already. Almost
Governor.
100.
More, Bitibao.
Please, I don't know if the materials can be sent so that we that were new could get
Sorry,
it.
who is your governor even? Who is the governor?
I'm the governor, sir, and the material is available. My name is Temitope Morayo, sir. Yes, sir. It's me, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because material has been sent, new students, if people should go to the Telegram group, I've sent the materials there. You have the things.
In fact, all the material self.
Everything.
Hello, sir.
Okay, that's nice. So I think we still have about 2 more classes before exam, Abi.
Hello, sir. This is like the last class on the timetable.
So. This is the last class, though.
This is last class?
Yes, on the timetable.
Yes, sir. This is last class, sir. And that just revision class. Yes, sir.
No wahala.
So I should give us assignment to do.
We've done almost half, 50%. But I know that there'll be revision.
Okay, sir.
We still have 1 more class. No problem.
Thank you, sir.
Just read.
Yes, sir.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Amen.
And do group work.
A grade. Group work again, sir.
No, people will just divide yourself now.
Yes, sir.
And let's say one group will handle some aspect of the material, another group just to do a summary. You just do summary and then you share it among yourselves.
Yes, sir.
Like that, you will cover everything. You know a story, you have to talk. If it was when we used to have it as POP now, pen on paper. Now that would be for OBJ. You're good to go.
So OBJ is more difficult than theory. OBJ is more difficult than theory. OBJ is more difficult than theory.
Really?
You don't know it in OBJ, but theory you can still have some
points.
Sir,
at least in theory you write something.
OBJ is the most difficult exams if people don't know.
You do
If
Babada.
if you get it wrong, you fail it outrightly now.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's okay. Okay, if we're able to have one more class at least, thank God, and then we'll close the class.
All right, sir. So when will be the class, sir?
He said this is the last weekend for lectures.
As far as the timetable is concerned, but we have like 2 weeks into the exam for presentation, revision, and all of that.
And that's it now. Revision, I don't revision. We can have 1 or 2
But
more.
there's no timetable for that. So that's why I'm asking
But
when next.
the admin will do that later.
Okay, all right. Okay, it's all right, sir.
No.
It's all right, sir.
All right. Okay, on this note, enjoy the remaining part of the weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir. You too.
Bye.
Bye.